Hi everyone, and welcome to, blah, blah, blah. Let's start over. Mutual line. Hi, I'm David Gassmeyer, and welcome to Airplane Academy. I'm excited to talk to you today about the differences in flying a variety of different airplanes. I've amassed 3,500 hours of flying, including owning and operating a number of different single-engine high-performance airplanes. Also flew a Baron for a while. I have a commercial multi-instrument rating. Also have a seaplane rating from Alaska. Highly encourage you to go do that. Maybe we'll do a video on that one time. But here today, I'm here to tell you about the transition that I went through, taking all of that experience and applying it into owning, operating the TBM 930 right over here. Okay, here I am sitting in front of a 2016 TBM 930. And the step that it took to get to this TBM 930 was immensely different than all of the experience and training that I had in every airplane that I owned and operated before this airplane. This airplane is a quantum leap in terms of your ability, your skill ability, your pilot ability, your systems knowledge, and your ability to operate the airplane. And of all the things you have to learn, I can boil it down to 3 or 4 key areas. One is you have to understand, appreciate, and be able to control the power that this beast provides with this PT6A 66D engine that is continuous rated at 850 shaft horsepower. And that is a big piece that you have to respect. The next piece is understanding the systems. There are a variety of systems on this airplane that you don't have in other piston engine airplanes. We'll talk about that also. There's also some training considerations, and there's also some cost considerations. So let's jump right into talking about what the power that this airplane exhibits and how you have to deal with it. One of the things that surprised me the most about this airplane, I knew it was fast. I didn't know how fast it was until I was in the left seat having to control the airplane. It flies in a speed envelope that can carry you along at cruise speeds of 310, 320 knots indicated, but still land coming over the fence with a VREF of about 85 knots. And that is a big difference, and that's something to get used to. There's also a respect that you have to have for the takeoff power of this airplane, and we've all been taught that the right foot to counteract the torque of the engine and the propeller is necessary in every airplane, and that's true. The Super Cub needs it, and so does the 182. But in this airplane, you better wear a big shoe because you're going to need all that right foot can give you as you depart. It's particularly more difficult when you're doing a go around it at a low airspeed and trying to climb out of it. That's a flight maneuver that can be dangerous in any airplane, but in this airplane you have to respect it because it has so much power. The other thing that it provides is that we're used to hearing that you have to be out in front of the airplane. Well, when you're flying along at 140 knots, being out in front of the airplane is maybe being 5 miles in front of the airplane. In this airplane, you need to be 30 to 40 miles out in front of it. And on a long cross country where you're up really high, you're planning 100 miles out in front and you're planning your descent 30 minutes before you're going to start down. There are a lot of those things that you have to learn, but that's the fun of the airplane, is that you're flying in the flight levels at flight level 310, maybe 28,000 feet, which this airplane loves 280. And you're up there with the big boys in pressurized comfort. It's quiet, but it is extremely fast and powerful, and you have to respect it and learn how to fly it. Okay, the next area I want to talk to you about briefly are the systems that come with this airplane that are not in those other planes we talked about. And the first one I'd like to talk about is the inertial separator. And as you can see in the cowl scoop here in the front of the airplane, it is designed to intake massive amounts of air to feed this engine. And it's a reverse flow engine. But if a bird flies into that, there's got to be a way to prevent that bird from entering the airplane engine. You don't want them in the airplane. If it makes it all the way to the airplane, you got other problems. But if it makes it into this cowling, the inertial separator is a door inside that can be activated from the control panel that allows that foreign object debris, when it goes through the cowling, to exit the bottom of the airplane. It saves the airplane from ingesting any FOD, birds, other things, and you operate it during departure on certain environments, always on the ground and always during landing. And that's a new system you'll have to get used to. Another new system you'll have to get used to is pressurization, and that comes from a new system called bleed air. And bleed air is taking the heat off the engine and using it for environmental systems and also the pressurization in the airplane. At flight level 310 in the TBM, your cabin altitude will be about 9,600 feet, sometimes 9,800 feet, 6.2 PSI differential. But at flight level 280, the cabin altitude may be only 8,300 feet. But at any of those altitudes, you need to understand how the pressurization works. And in the event of an emergency, you have to know how to work the oxygen masks for the crew and also for the passengers and understand how those work. There's other systems to learn, but those are two really big ones that are new if you're moving into the turboprop world. Another system that's new in the TBM 930, it has a Garmin G3000 flight deck. And many of you may have experience with Garmin products, the 530, the 430, the G1000. This G3000 is a flight deck that is being put into some of the entry-level jets. Some of the Citations and other airplanes are getting the G3000. I chose to learn to fly the G3000 because it was another step up in the learning curve, and I really wanted to have the most advanced avionics if I'm flying an airplane that's this fast. But that's another piece that you have to learn, and I'll talk about that in training in just a minute. But those are some of the things you're going to have to encounter, and they're going to be new to you if you're moving up from a single engine airplane into a turboprop. Okay, let's talk about training. And like many of you, I really enjoy training. Some people don't like training. They like to just do the minimum. But if you're going to move into a high-performance airplane like this, it's a much more serious decision. And so the training that I got with this airplane when I bought it new came with SimCom, and it started with 8 days in Orlando, flying their non-motion sim, ground school, and also flight time in the afternoon and the evenings. So by the time I got done, it was a very intense, serious, high-quality learning experience that was a lot of fun. And when I got done and was checked out, I had 25 hours in the airplane, and I had 12 hours in the simulator, plus all the ground school time and passing the tests and all that. There's no check ride other than the last day they throw every possible problem at you at the same time. But it's a much more organized and calculated training approach to you taking the skills that you have built in your career and applying it to this airplane platform. Another part of the training, and this comes from the insurance company, but it's not the reason to do it, but it's the annual recurrent training. Every 12 months, I go back to Orlando into the simulator and fly for 3 days in the sim, and then take another day on the other end to fly with an instructor, and we go do approaches and a lot of fun things. But then about every 3 to 6 months, as a member of the TBM Owners Association, they have different flight safety events where we can hire an instructor and go do some recurrent training. And the idea is to be having instructional training in this airplane 2 to 3, 4 times a year to stay sharp in the airplane. And it's really a lot of fun when you have an instructor show up and it's the weather is down to 400 overcast with about 2.5 miles of visibility, stable air, and they just can't wait to go flying. And it forces you to go do it, and when you get done with that, you realize how capable this airplane is and how much more polished you are as a professional pilot that's well-trained in an airplane that is really a top of the game in the world of single-engine turboprops. So the last consideration I want to mention to you are the costs associated with owning one of these airplanes. And yes, it's more expensive. The higher you go, the faster you go, it's exponentially more expensive. So I remember when I went from my first airplane, a Piper Aero, a 180 Aero, it cost me, I don't know how much to operate, but it seemed pretty expensive at the time. And then when I went to a Bonanza, it got even more expensive. Then I went to a Cirrus and it was more expensive. Then the Baron was more expensive, but nothing like this guy. The TBM will burn in cruise anywhere between 55 and 60 gallons an hour. On the ground, when it's just in idle, it's burning 30 to 35 an hour. The insurance premiums are very high. Putting them in a nice hangar like this is expensive, and recurrent training is expensive. So this is not the type of airplane to buy if you're looking for a budget weekend $100 hamburger type trip. But for the reward it gives you to fly something like this at the flight levels and be in the system, being in some weather, just makes all the flying that I did in the single engine pistons all those years that much more rewarding. And lastly, I'll leave you with this, that the funnest rating that I ever received was in Alaska, flying a float plane, a Piper Super Cub on floats. And it took all the experience I had and put it on floats in a lake up in Alaska is absolutely the funnest rating you'll ever have. It's not like flying a TBM, but it's part of the training. It's part of, you know, being an ambassador to your own hobby and your own professional desire to fly the best you can. I guess the real point is that not all training and flying needs to be expensive to be fun. And that's why the seaplane rating was absolutely the most fun I've ever had in an airplane. I gotta tell you, it was fantastic. And it wasn't all that expensive, and it was a heck of a lot of fun. Flying the TBM was a lot of fun. But there are balances to everything, and I think if you can find the things that are inexpensive but they're fun, but still be committed to training and getting better as a pilot, I think you'll find a lot of satisfying hours in your logbook you'll look back on and be very glad that you did. And you know what's more fun than talking about flying the TBM 930? Is flying the TBM 930. So we appreciate you being with us today. We're gonna pull the airplane out of the hangar and go fly the TBM 930. Look for us in the next video. We'll be able to post some of that footage. I think it'll be right up here someplace, right up in here. Okay, good luck, happy flying, and we'll see you next time. It's gonna be so bad. I'm already sweating. Golly, I don't know how you do it.